Greetings, my fellow ghouls, goblins, and ghosts, and I want to welcome you to a very special video I decided to do today. The video is going to be a little different. It's horror related, but not at the same time, if that makes sense. I actually went on Twitter and I asked several of you guys to send me some questions of anything that you may be curious about. You know, obviously respectful questions, like keeping it clean, things like that. And I decided to make my first Q&A video, so here we are. The reason why I decided to do this video is because I kind of, I want to like connect with you guys on like more of a personal level and want you guys to get to know me and everything, and get to know the girl behind the camera a little bit, so I figured, you know, this would be a good way. I tried this challenge where I would like post different facts about myself on Twitter, and I tried to do it each day, but like, you think you know a lot about yourself, and you know that you've done a lot, but you can't really think of anything. So basically, I let you guys ask me questions. I figured that would be an easier way for you guys to get to know me, and I can connect with you guys on a personal level. So, without further ado, let's get into some questions, shall we? And because, I don't know if you guys know this is kind of a personal fact about me that, like, I've always been a little self-conscious about. But I actually wear glasses, and I mostly wear them to read, but I wear them all the time when I'm not taking pictures. I wear them all the time when I'm not on video. It's just something that I've been a little self-conscious about since I was younger. Like, I don't really look like how I look in glasses, but this is a big part of you guys getting to know me, is, you know, knowing more about me. And one fact I will say is my eyes are complete and utter crap. So, do I look intelligent at least? I really hope so. I have all these questions saved on my laptop and screenshotted, and I'm going to have the question and, you know, the username pop up on the video, so you guys can also read the question. I'll check it out. I love this thing, guys. Chromebooks are awesome, and I got to decorate it with some of my favorite horror stickers. Check that out. And yes, one of them is a Demogorgon. Without further ado, I know these are a little big on me. That's the style that I like. Fred's Corner, and big shout out real quick to @Fred's Corner on Twitter. He has a YouTube channel called Fred's Horror Corner. I think that's what it's called. Hopefully I didn't completely get that wrong. But he does like horror reviews, and, you know, he makes horror content just like me. So go and give him a follow on Twitter @Fred's Corner, and go give him a subscribe. I will drop his YouTube link in my bio, and he's got some great stuff. Very charismatic, very great dude. To me, he's one of my personal friends. He's really nice, and I thought it would be, you know, only right to support his channel. He's been supporting mine since I started it. So, big shout out to you, Fred. Thank you so much for sending me your question. Thank you for supporting me, and hopefully this video gets you a little more like subscribers and things like that. Fred's Corner, or Fred the Skull, I love that, by the way, asked, here's my question. How do you get into wrestling, and who's your favorite wrestler? Okay, so basically how I got into wrestling was through my fiance. I watched it a little bit when I was younger. I watched it a little bit, I forget who exactly in my family watched it, but it was on. I think it was like one of my sister's exes, like that they were watching it, and it, like, I was always mesmerized by the cage matches. You know, I was always mesmerized by Mick Foley, you know, when he was Mankind, or just Mick Foley in general. But when I really got into wrestling was through my fiance, Brandon. When we got together, I stopped watching, so I was like completely like out of the loop with the storylines of WWE, and this is back when I watched WWE. I don't much anymore. I'm more of an AEW girl. No disrespect to WWE fans. My fiance Brandon, he got me into watching it, and that actually got me wanting to become a professional wrestler myself. I know that's a little weird considering, like, you know, my size and everything. I obviously didn't used to have like skinny arms. I actually used to have more muscle in my arms, but that's besides the point. I decided to get into training, and I decided to get into professional wrestling, and it took me like at least like 4 or 5 years to find a school around my area. I was going to join one in Myrtle Beach because I'm from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, if you didn't know that already. And that school closed. And they were like really expensive. I wouldn't have been able to afford, you know, the money for like the seamstress to make my ring gear and things like that. Or like, you know, the monthly payment. Forget how much exactly that was. I know it was like an exorbitant amount of money. But I basically, 3 or 4 years later, I noticed my brother, he was at a convention, and they had a booth, this wrestling school called Southern House of Wrestling. Big shout out to my trainer Fuego. And he brought me a flyer home because they were looking for women wrestlers. So I signed up, and I started training. When COVID hit and everything, my mental health really like started to decline. So I stopped training, but I didn't stop training. I trained at home. I did back bumps on the bed because it was, you know, big enough. I was tucking my head every day, like trying to practice these back bumps, so when I was able to return to wrestling school, I could do it. But I know I went a little off topic with the question, sorry Fred, but that's how I got into wrestling, through my fiance, and that's how I decided to become a professional wrestler. And yes, I will definitely be returning, hopefully sometime this year. You know, with the moving and everything, and me getting sick and losing all the weight that I have a lot of training and working out and weightlifting to catch up on before I can safely return into the ring. Favorite professional wrestler? Old school would probably be Rowdy Piper, and new school would probably be CM Punk or Darby Allin, I would have to say. So thank you again for your question, Fred. Next question asked by @bedorca, Dwayne Hickman on Twitter. What's your favorite wrestling-themed horror film? Do they have those? Like, I think they have those. I think I've seen them, you know, different ones streaming on different like streaming services like Tubi, but I don't think I've actually ever seen a wrestling-themed horror film. But hey, this is a perfect opportunity for you guys to recommend me some in the comments, because I want to see these. Thank you for the question. I'm sorry I didn't have an answer for you for that one. @RayMaliber3 on Twitter asked 2 questions actually. One, if it's not too personal, how did you and your fiance meet? Okay. It's kind of a funny story. I actually used to do a little bit of like role playing on Twitter. Like, you know, you guys have seen like RPing accounts. I wouldn't necessarily do like horror role playing back then, but I did South Park role playing. I was, you know, really big into like South Park back then, and I made my own profile. I made my own South Park character through a South Park creator website. And I started role-playing with my fiance Brandon, who also made his own character. And beyond that, we actually got to know each other through the online role-playing, like out of character and everything. We actually got to know each other. And no, this account does not exist anymore, guys. But we started talking through like Facebook, and we started talking through my actual Twitter account, and we were friends for like a year, and we started like an online relationship at that point. And we we video chatted, we called each other on the phone, things like that. And we decided to meet and everything in person. He's actually from New Jersey. He flew out to South Carolina to meet me, and we were already in love with each other, but we became engaged, and that was 8 years ago. I actually met my fiance on Twitter. So it was kind of a funny story, and it's funny how you don't think you're gonna meet your significant other online, but you do, and it turns out, he didn't actually love horror movies when I first met him. I actually got him into the genre, kind of how he got me into wrestling and sports and things like that. So that's how we met. And Ray's second question from @RayMaliber3 again. Since you're doing kill count videos, what's your favorite and least favorite slasher kills? Okay, that's a good question. My favorite slasher kill, I would have to say that my favorite slasher kill would have to be Halloween 2, when Michael Myers took the syringe, and I've talked about this in other videos, took the syringe and in Janet's eye. I'm sorry. Eye things bother me. I have an eye condition, so I experience eye pain quite a bit. I've posted about my eye headaches, or as I call them, eye migraines on Twitter. That part really hurts. So that's my favorite slasher kill. My least favorite slasher kill would probably, I don't know how people feel about this, but it would probably have to be the kill in the first Friday the 13th, where the first kill, you don't actually see her throat slit. You just kind of see the hand raise, and then blood just pouring out of her throat. I wasn't a big fan of that kill because I don't know why. I don't really have a reason why I wasn't a big fan of that specific slasher kill. That didn't get me for some reason. It wasn't, not that it wasn't a good effect or anything like that. It was just, I think, my least favorites, I think. I think throat slitting is one of the basic, slasher kills in my opinion. But, of course, opinions, everybody has them. Thank you for your question, Ray. @RavensDance18 on Twitter asked, what movie made you a horror fan? I would say, the movie that made me a horror fan was Scream. And I saw that movie when I was 2 years old. Ironically, I wasn't really supposed to be watching it, but I was kind of in the room. And ironically, the same age I saw Night of the Living Dead. That was my first horror film, but so the movie that made me a horror fan was Scream 1996, and I actually heard a lot of horror fans feel the same actually. Ethereal Dirge on Twitter asked, if you had the chance to wrestle any wrestler, past or present, who would it be and why? Oh god, that's a good question. I think I'm gonna go with new. If I was to wrestle any wrestler, I would love to go. If I was to wrestle any wrestler, it would probably have to be Ruby Soho from AEW or Rhea Ripley from WWE, because I'm a big fan of hers, and I still follow her matches on WWE, even though I don't watch it that much anymore. But either one of those two, I think that would be like a fantastic match, especially with what my gimmick is going to be for wrestling. At Scumbag Zombie on Twitter asked, what is the best genre of horror in your opinion and why? I think my the best genre of horror in my opinion would have to be slasher. No questions. It would have to be slasher, and the reason why I'm going with slasher, and obviously everyone has their own opinions, that's mine. But the reason why I'm going with slasher is because you get the comedy, you get the gore, you get, the effects, you get everything. And I love slashers. That's probably my favorite subgenre of horror as a whole. It's just, you could do so many things with it. You can get creative, like what Tom Savini would do, and it's just like with the effects, and it's just, it's an amazing subgenre. I know it's not for everybody. Alright, at goodguy8821, hi Chucky. Are you a Beatles fan? And if so, what is your favorite album or song by them? I don't have a favorite album by the Beatles, but I do like the Beatles. I grew up on them. My sister is a big Beatles fan. My fiance is a big Beatles fan. I love the Beatles. I think, if I'm actually in a depressed mood and I want to listen to something more positive, I will listen to the Beatles. And I think my favorite song by them, I'll go with song instead of album, is With a Little Help from Your Friends. That song is just, it's a beautiful song, and I don't know, it just reminds me of all the good things in the universe, if that makes sense. So thank you for your question, Chucky. We have 3 questions from my good friend on Twitter, at Shirk Reese, which is Asher Reese. Do you have a gimmick in mind for your wrestling persona, and would you consider a horror-themed gimmick? I actually, have my gimmick on paper of what it's going to be at, when I progress in the wrestling field. And my, wrestling gimmick / persona is basically going to be the gatekeeper of Purgatori. I'm keeping my Purgatori horror name that I have on YouTube and Twitter, and it's something that I've been coming up with for a few years. My ring name is going to be Purgatori, since it goes with my name. My name is Tori, with an I though, not with a Y, so I'm Purgatori, and I'm going to be basically the gatekeeper of the Purgatory realm as my gimmick. So I'm going to do the face paint, and the fake blood, and the all black, and fishnets, and I'm going to even color my hair. So yes, it will be horror themed, and I'm really excited to share that with you guys, because I don't think I've shared that with too many people, actually. So definitely is going to be a horror gimmick. I'm going to mesh, the beautiful thing about wrestling is your gimmick is your personality and what you love, but enhanced. So I can't wait to do that, and I was so happy to share that with you guys. The next question by Asher Reese is favorite international horror films and why. My favorite international horror film or films would probably be anything Italian or anything Asian, Japanese or Korean. My favorite international horror films would be Suspiria, a lot of Argento, Suspiria, and Zombie. Well, they call it Zombie too, because it's like the unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead, which was titled in Italy as Zombie. So it would have, my favorite international films would have to be Suspiria and Zombie, and for Japanese, definitely Battle Royale would have to be my top. So thank you for that question. Happy to answer that for you guys. Third question by Asher Reese is favorite mask. Not necessarily the character behind the mask, but more based on aesthetic/visual spook factor. Let's see. Any of the masks from The Strangers would have to really resonate with me. I would also have to go with, just because this mask really frightened me as a child. It's not like, specific, I know it's like a, specific type of slasher from a specific slasher film, but I will have to go with Scream, the Ghostface or Father Death mask. Which, fun fact, if you guys didn't already know this, he wasn't originally called Ghostface, he was called Father Death. So, the mask is just really, like, creepy with that oblong, like, face. So, I was terrified of The Mask, even though that was my favorite horror film as a kid. The Mask freaked me out, The Mask freaked me out to no living end. So definitely have to be, Scream would have to be my favorite. I know that may seem basic, but I love the way it looks. I love how it basically represents fear, in my opinion. So thank you for the questions, Asher. At David Carpin 55, sorry if I completely butchered your name. At David Carpin, his name is David Carpenter, or Charpenter? I don't know. What is the scariest movie you have ever seen? Oh my god. The scariest movie I have ever seen, ironically, is like a newer horror film, and I'm going to have to go with Train to Busan. That movie scared the shit out of me. And if you know, you know. The zombies are completely, absolutely terrifying. I can't, like, any, like, fast zombie freaks me out. Like, I'm not, like, I have good stamina when I'm working out and doing aerobics or weightlifting or whatever. When it comes to running myself, I can't run from that. I would be food. I would not be able to run from them. So, and God, now I'm thinking, now that I think about it, 28 Days Later is terrifying too. And like, I know, like, I don't know if people actually consider them like zombies, but both of those movies are two of the scariest movies I think I've ever seen. And just watch those movies and, like, go, like, if you've never seen those movies, like, they gave me an anxiety attack. So, definitely the most terrifying horror movies I think I've ever seen are definitely 28 Days Later, both that, 28 Weeks Later, and Train to Busan. At Manic Muppet on Twitter asked, if you are allowed to pick a double feature to be played in a theater for one night, which two movies would you want to see on the big screen? That's a really creative question. I like that. I would have to go with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween 1978. Just because they're both like two of my favorite horror films of all time. So being able to see those two on the big screen is just like, that would be a dream come true. Oh my god, I would love that. Halloween 1978 and Texas Chainsaw. How cool would that be? Just think about that double feature. Or I would like to see, like, on a flip side, I Drink Your Blood and from the 70s and Rabid, David Cronenberg's Rabid. Those, both of those center around rabies, and I think both of those would be a perfect double feature. And at Manic Muppet asked another question. If you could choose any horror heroine as your tag team partner, who would you choose and what would your tag team be called? Oh my god, I love these creative questions, guys. If I was to choose any horror heroine as my tag team partner, I'm gonna have to go with Laurie. I mean, especially in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. I mean, she's a badass. I would love to have her, either her or Sydney Prescott on my team. Or Alice from Dream Master, from Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Master. Either one of those three, I would love to have on my team. If I had to pick one, it would definitely have to be Laurie Strode from the original Halloween franchise, and from Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. She just becomes a badass. Even in H2O, she actually, becomes a bit of a badass. So, and God, what would our tag team be called? I'm gonna have to, you guys are totally gonna laugh at me, don't really care. We are calling our tag team Evil Dies Tonight. And I'm sorry, I love that quote. I know many of you guys don't. That is our tag team. Evil Dies Tonight would be our tag team. Because, hey, we're going up against the heels, we're going up against the bad guys, so it works. Canned 1974, aka Night of the Living Dad on Twitter, asked me, what was the first horror film you remember watching? And if it wasn't the film that turned you onto horror, which film it did turn me onto horror? The first horror film, like I think I mentioned this on Twitter or in like another one of my videos, but the first horror film I remember watching is Night of the Living Dead 1968. But that, ironically, like, I love the movie, I love Night of the Living Dead. I think it scared me more as a kid than, like, getting me into the horror genre, but ironically, that same year, I watched Scream, and that turned me on to horror. So, my first horror film is Night of the Living Dead, but the horror film that turned me on to horror was Scream. So, very good question. Thank you for sending that. Darth Frood on Twitter asked, what is your favorite kaiju? Ooh. I know you guys are not gonna like this, but I'm gonna go basic and just say, I am a mega Godzilla fan. I mean, look at my shirt. Beardzilla, I love kaiju, I love Godzilla, but Godzilla would have to be my favorite kaiju. I watched the original Godzilla while I was sick for the few months that I was. Like, during one of the days I was sick. I didn't rewatch the movie for 2 months. Sorry about that. Godzilla for the first time, the original, and I fell in love with it. And I've always been a Godzilla fan. I've seen other Godzilla films. Like, specifically, one of my favorites is the one with Baby Godzilla. I think it's Son of Godzilla, I forget. But definitely, like, Godzilla would be my favorite kaiju. I love Godzilla because, he reminds me of a dinosaur. So, and I love dinosaurs. You can't go wrong with big ass, mutated dinosaurs. So, yeah. At B Transplant, aka Brian Transplant on Twitter, asked 4 questions. What are your favorite movie snacks? God. When I was, like, eating kind of unhealthy, my favorite movie snack was, like, popcorn with, like, lots and lots of butter on it. Or, the chili lime or fuego flavored Takis. Those were always my favorite movie snacks. Or, like, literally any kind of candy would be, like my top favorite. Now, like, going in, like, since I've started eating healthier, I would have to say, Harvest Farms, dry roasted, green peas, and they kind of have, like, I think they're made of, like sugar snap peas or, like, some kind of, like, chickpea or whatever, but they're so good, and it's, like, they have, like, the actual pea, but, like, I don't know how they do it, but they, like, dry roasted it in, like, olive oil with, like, and they're, like, lightly salted, and they're like dry roasted in the oven, or like they're baked or whatever, and they have like the texture of like a Cheeto a little bit, but like, or like a, you know, something like that, like, but it's like a roasted pea. Really good, actually. Either that, graham crackers. I love anything with whole grains in it. But like my all-time favorite movie snack, which is not unhealthy if you think about it, I love salsa and corn chips, because, you know, tomatoes have vitamin C, and the peppers are actually good for you too. So I love like salsa chips. My old favorite movie snacks were Takis, or any kind of candy, or buttered popcorn. But now I lean towards like more of like the healthier stuff. And asked by Brian Transplant on Twitter is, what are your favorite non-horror movies? And I do have favorite non-horror movies, actually. I'll name 3 of them for you. The Outsiders, you know, with Stay Gold Ponyboy. Detroit Rock City, because I'm a big Kiss fan. And my other favorite non-horror movie would have to be The Karate Kid. The original, not the remake. Don't even get me started on the remake. Those are my favorite non-horror movies. We have The Karate Kid, we have Detroit Rock City, and The Outsiders. Those are my 3 favorite non-horror movies. And the third question by Brian Transplant is, outside of film, what other horror media do you enjoy, like games, books, etc.? I actually, I have a Nintendo Switch. I'm a fairly big gamer when I'm not watching horror movies. Like, I have the Friday the 13th game. I'm like really big into like RPG games, or like old school games, like, you know, old Nintendo or arcade games. Which is weird, I guess, considering my like age group. I love any Nintendo game. I love Super Mario Brothers. I love Kirby, Super Smash Brothers. I love Mortal Kombat. I love Rayman. I actually play a shit ton of Minecraft and Animal Crossing. As for like role-playing games, I love the Fable games. I'm more of like an old school gamer, I would have to say, because I really love the original Tomb Raider, and like the first Tomb Raider, the first few games for the PlayStation 1, and Dino Crisis was awesome, and the original Resident Evil game, just beautiful. But and as for books, like, you know, I'm more of like a horror book reader, like, but I will read anything. Like, my favorite book is actually a non-horror book, and it's, you know, like my favorite non-horror movie, it is The Outsiders. So I do love like games, books, you know, and I love like reading articles online and stuff like that. So like definitely some other media. Favorite TV shows like would have to be like Stranger Things, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, True Blood, Freaks and Geeks. When that show was on in the 90s, that was a lot of fun. There's just so many. I used to be a big like Shameless fan when that was on. We actually got Showtime specifically for Shameless. But the like outside of like horror media, that's, you know, I like that stuff too. And the fourth question by Brian Transplant is, you get to choose a double feature at a drive-in. What two do you pick? I think I mentioned, like, somebody asked a similar question like earlier, so and I had said Halloween 1978 and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I'll go ahead and pick 2 more. There are just so many that I would love to see as a double feature in like a drive-in. I would have to go with the original Nosferatu from 1922, and I would have to go with The Creature from the Black Lagoon, because that's one of my favorite Universal monster films. So I think those, like, as a double feature, or on the flip side, Nosferatu 1922 and Dracula 1931. We have one Dracula adaptation with another, so that would be perfect. I love that. Well, thank you for the question. At Hound Dog Soggy on Twitter asked, what made you get into wrestling and horror? Also, what horror movies are you looking forward to seeing? My fiance got me into wrestling. Who got me into horror was my older brother. He got me into horror at a young age. He wouldn't just blatantly show me horror movies at such a young age. I was very mischievous, and I would kind of sneak in and watch them. Like I mentioned with Night of the Living Dead, was not really supposed to be watching that or Scream, because I saw both of those in the same year. I forget how exactly old I was. I'm pretty sure that it was 2 or something. It's just a guess, but yeah. My brother got me into horror. My fiance got me into wrestling. And what horror movies am I looking forward to seeing? Gosh, definitely Halloween Ends and Scream 6 for newer horror movies, and Jordan Peele's Nope. I am a big Jordan Peele fan, so I'm so excited to see those. And I think David Cronenberg has a new movie out, so gotta look for that. And I still have to see Malignant, and I still have to see Last Night in Soho, and I still want to see X, so those I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. At Gnome Indecisio, aka Matthew G on Twitter asked, is there any dormant horror series or villain you'd most like to see revisited? Or it could be one that has some recent movies but you want to see a new interpretation. I would have to say either Freddy Krueger or Jason, for movies. We haven't really gotten new Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th films in a long time. I think that would actually be really cool. Jay Burke on Twitter asked, what's one project you've always wanted to do but haven't done yet? Gosh, I would have to say making my first short horror film. I've been toying with the idea for a long time, but I haven't really known where to start. And, I do write a lot in my free time, and I've been toying with different ideas head for a long time now, but I definitely want to make my first short horror movie, because I do have a lot of ideas in my head that I'm always getting out on paper, and part of me just really wants to implement them in some way, whether it's writing a novel or making a short horror film. So those either writing a book or making a short horror film are two projects that I really want to eventually do. So that's something that's something for me to think about for sure. At Canned 1974, Night of the Living Dad asked again, what's your dream vacation location, and if you could tour one movie location, which would you choose? I think my dream vacation location would probably be either Amsterdam or Japan. So probably either Amsterdam, Japan, or Ireland. Definitely somewhere out of the U.S. because I've never been out of the U.S. I've always wanted to, check out other countries and check out other locations and, check out Germany and things like that. But if I could tour one movie location, it would have to be probably the Myers house or 1428 Elm Street, the Freddy house, any of the houses, used the famous houses used in horror movies. And I would absolutely love to tour the location of either the original Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got some ideas for the future. Well, that just about does it for all the questions, guys. Thank you for bearing with me through my first Q&A video. And if you like the video, we could definitely do a second part or something. I want to level with you guys. This is going to be the last video taken in the current room that I'm in, as my fiance and I, we just bought our first house. I'm really excited because, you know, like, we've never owned anything before. We've never had anything really that was ours. We've always rented, and so I'm really excited about that. I'm actually going to have like a different setup when we move. There's going to be more movie posters in the background, like more collectibles and like DVDs and things like that, like, and better lighting, guys, much better lighting, because I'm not gonna lie, the lighting in here sucks. It's bad. It's very yellow. It's not like that LED like white light that I love working with. The lighting is just really bad, and I basically had to work with what I had. So this is the last video in this room. We will be moving in 8 days, so we will be in our new house by the time we do the Hellraiser kill count video, which is coming soon. And I'm also going to level with you guys on a personal level. I really wanted to, you know, thank everybody for like supporting me. Thank everybody for following me on Twitter, keeping up with my posts, even keeping up with my, you know, content that I put out. When you see your audience responding in like a positive light, it's very refreshing. And, you know, especially with somebody like me who has like been through bullying and stuff like that, you know, been through like trolls and stuff. I have social anxiety disorder. You could probably like notice that in a lot of like my videos starting out, but the fact that I've had like more supportive people than, you know, trolls has been very refreshing, and it really means a lot to me. I can't be more thankful for everybody who has been watching my videos, keeping up with my Twitter content. It really does mean a lot. And I hope you guys continue to support me. And I know I have to get better at sharing a lot of folks' YouTube channels, because a lot of people give me the support. I don't feel like I'm doing enough to support back, so I'm definitely going to work on that. It's just, you know, I had to tell you guys how I felt. Thank you so much, and hopefully I can keep putting out the content that you guys want. And if you guys ever have any suggestions or anything like that of something that you would want to see, like, you know, definitely let me know on Twitter. Be sure to like at me though, like, you know, mention me, because I don't, my DMs stack up, and I also get kind of anxious when I have to answer DMs. So like, be sure to like try to like at me, you know, because I won't see it otherwise. Honestly, one of the big things that got me into content creating is actually being active on Twitter, watching other people's YouTube channels, and I was going to do it, but I kept putting it off for so long. So that's when I started watching The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl, and they actually they inspired me to like actually like start the content creating. I know theirs is a TV show on Shudder, and YouTube is very different, but they inspired me to want to like be more active in the horror community, whether it's like content creating, article writing, you know, things like that. It's like they inspired me to basically like say, okay, I need to come out of my shell. I want to be more active. I want to do this. I want to, you know, I want to put my art out there and create things. And, you know, Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy are a big inspiration to me, like, because of, you know, their show and everything. So a big shout out to Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy. Thank you so much. And I I can't thank you enough. I can't thank, seriously, all of you guys. Thank you so much for keeping up with my posts. Thank you for all the support. Thank you. I'm so grateful. I did not think that, like, my, you know, posts or YouTube videos would ever, you know, take off, but, you know, never say never. Never say never. I guess that just about does it for today's video. It was a little different, a little more personal, but I wanted to do that to kind of connect with you guys a little bit, and hopefully I did a good job at my first Q&A video. Be sure to give me a follow on Twitter at SpookyCelestial. Be sure to follow my Instagram, which I know is not really active right now. I know I need to get better at posting on that, but you can follow me there at Celestial Horror. I also have an art Instagram page where I do like distorted horror art and digital paintings, and you can follow that at Ghastly Visuals on Instagram. And I also have a website which I need to get better at posting articles on. I've just been so busy with like the therapy and you know, the getting healthier and the moving. It's just everything, and you know, the kill count videos. I've just been really busy. If you guys like the idea of merchandise, I'm actually painting and designing things as we speak, so if you guys would ever be interested in like buying merchandise from me, like definitely like let me know in the comments section, like whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, or on here. Definitely let me know. Thank you guys. I love you. So long, and pleasant screams.